Welcome to a fresh start. How are you? I am so excited to be with you this morning. Got a question. How much do you allow other people to plant their feelings about how they feel about you or as a person or how you live your life in you? How much do you allow that? Do you know where those feelings and opinions are coming from? What's the root of them? I'm Shauna Grace, and I enjoy coming and sharing time with you to bring perspectives and a fresh start in your mental and emotional being so that you can come out of some things you are in now. We have people who are not bothered at all about how somebody thinks. They don't care where it's coming from because they don't pay it any mind. But for those of you who do, I want to talk to you. I have lived that life, and I am glad to say I live it no longer. I am so happy to be able to know how people feel and let them stay with their feelings, not allow them to plant that in me. As they talk, I don't accept that. I don't accept that. I don't accept that. That's your opinion of me. That's not mine. I lived many years of just being so fragile about how people felt about me. When I heard what somebody said about me, oh, it's going to hit, especially when it's people you've spent time with. It's going to hit. But if you keep pressing forward, keep doing personal self development in prayer, asking the Heavenly Father to help you, you will get where you can hear that stuff and go on about your business. I hope that you have your mug. If it doesn't say what mine says, every day is a fresh start. I hope you have a mug, whether it's your coffee or your tea, or you might have something else in there that you enjoy in the morning. It is 5:13 a.m. here. And so you may be in the afternoon or even evening time. But I hope that you have your mug that we can enjoy this session together. That's always good to me. As I was saying, people are entitled to their opinions. That's something you've got to be okay with. This week, we have started a new area of a fresh start called, and it's being okay with how people feel. It's okay. If somebody says to you that they don't like what you have on, they this, they that, they the other, you've got to learn to be okay with how they feel. It's all right. It is really all right. And once you get that really in your spirit, that you can hear people say this, you can hear people say that, it's okay. Once you get that in you, you will be all right. I promise you. How do I know? Walked it for 50 some years. Well, 40 some, 40 some years. I did. And it was the most traumatizing period of my life. But when I look at who I am today, how my Heavenly Father, I call him Daddy, has matured me, grown me up, and helped me to learn how to be okay with how somebody feels about me that may be in a negative light. It is the most liberating life I could ever imagine. I mean, liberating. Why? Because I understand that they're okay thinking how they feel, and I'm okay ignoring how they feel. You get where I'm coming from? They're okay feeling like they feel, and I'm okay ignoring how they feel. You get what I'm saying? See, when you get those two things right there together on the same plane, one combats the other. So, what you understand is people are human. They don't know your story. They don't. They don't know your story. So, they're just taking a glance at you and forming an opinion. I've done that and was just as wrong as could be. I don't do that anymore because even if I start, Daddy will say, "You don't know that person's story. You don't know the root of their behavior." And I have to back up and say, "Father, I apologize. You're right. I don't." Because I think a particular way about it doesn't mean that's how they think. And then I don't know where that's coming from. People don't act out of their successes 99% of the time, they act out of their pain. You see people, with certain, how can I say it, certain boundaries that are not normal. It's because they're trying to protect themselves from what they have experienced. And when that happens, then it winds up being something that maybe looks very odd to you. Hey, what in the world are they doing that for? You don't know, so you can't judge. I came out of a judgmental environment, and I was the one judged the most. And little by little, it was shaping me to judge because I was judged. And it took Daddy to break that. And he continues to break it because every day you continue to see things that look crazy. Just I'll take this. Excuse me, body's still waking up this early in the morning. Yes. Case in point, when somebody loses a loved one, we want to say, "Oh, honey, don't cry. Don't cry. They'll be in a better place. They'll be all right." Shut your mouth. Maybe you didn't cry over your loved one, But this person may have had a different relationship with their loved one than you had with your loved one. You see what I'm saying? And so, with that said, you can't tell them not to cry. Now, if you didn't cry, that was you. But you can't tell them not to cry. I know you trying to help them, but let them have their moment. Let them feel that moment. Because if they don't, they're not going to get the release they need to move on. Because the pain, the pressure, the ache is going to stay there until they release. If a person is 3, 4, 5, 10 years, 10 years getting over a loved one, a husband, a child, a parent, let them have it. Don't look at somebody and say, girl, why in the world you still crying over that? Your mom been dead 20 years. You still crying. Your husband been gone 15 years. You still crying over that. Put your big girl drawers on and come up. Oh, shut up. You don't get to tell somebody how much to grieve. I remember so vividly when my father passed. I'm not an only child, but I was raised an only child. Okay. And when my father passed, I think my body just went into pure shock. I Daddy wouldn't even let me be in there when he passed. I had been there day and night. And I stepped out to go get breakfast and come back because him and I, that was our thing. We ate breakfast together. So Dad had already let me know he was leaving before he wouldn't be here past 12 o'clock. And it was like 6 something that morning, I think. And was it 6? Yeah. No, it might be about 7:30. And I went on and I said, well, Dad, don't go nowhere. I know you leaving, but don't go. I'm going and get breakfast and we'll eat our last breakfast together and then you can go. I stepped out the room and went on and I met my bonus sister. She works there. And she said, I'm going in there and see Dad and I'm going home. And I said, okay. I said, well, I'm going down to get breakfast. And I told her, you know, how the Lord had let me know that he was leaving this morning. I said, and that was our thing, eat breakfast. Because I said, so I'm going down and get breakfast and I'm going to come back and eat our last breakfast, my last breakfast with him. And then, you know, release him so he can go. She said, okay. So she went in there and I don't know what happened that I got stalled from getting to the cafeteria. I looked around, she came out just crying. And I'm like, because Daddy was a strong man. You know, nobody never seen him sick, but Mom and I. And so I'm thinking she, you know, it just overwhelmed her to see him like that and all that kind of thing. And I'm hugging her and what have you. She never stopped crying. She never said anything to me. I just, after a while, I knew that if I didn't get breakfast, I was going to miss Daddy. Didn't know I had already missed him. I told her, I said, look, you go ahead. Get yourself together. You go ahead. I got to go get this breakfast. And she shook her head, but she never said anything. And she walked on. And wasn't long, the doctor came out asking for the Prince family. And I said, yes. And he had to be a new doctor. He just went to talking, yeah. And then these words came out of his mouth when Mr. Prince expired. And he went right on talking like he hadn't said anything. And I said, expired. Now, I know what expired means. I said, hey, hold it. What do you mean when Mr. Prince expired? He said, oh, Mr. Prince is dead. I mean, just like that. If I had been a person with a weak heart, I would have had a heart attack right there. I said, what you mean dead? He said, you didn't know? I said, no, I didn't know. He said, yeah, he just passed. I don't know what happened. I remember parts of what I did, but my whole being froze because I'm sitting here. Say, I just told you I was coming back. Why did you leave? I'm fussing with him. And I went on, and I didn't know whether I wanted to go in there, whether I needed to seem like that. He couldn't say nothing. I mean, well, he had become unresponsive anyway, but at least he was still, well, breathing, okay, on the respirator, of course. Uh, he wasn't breathing much on his own, but he was breathing some. So that still gave me him, in my opinion. Anyway, I walked back in there, froze. Cut to 20 years later. I froze. I tried to get myself together, but my mind shifted to my mother. And I'm like, oh my God, because they had been married 40 years. And there were, there were parts of that year that was just harmonious. And then there was, oh, well, that's marriage. Okay. So we ain't got to get into that. With that said, the whole time I'm focused on her. Didn't get one tear out. I'm focused on her. 20 years later, we're in the sanctuary. And between services, our technician at that time had a slideshow going of the beginning of the ministry and all of that. And the third slide was my father. I was in my late 40s, I think. When I tell you I got weak, almost dropped everything in my hand and turned into this little girl and went to hollering, "That's my daddy. There's my daddy. There's my dad." And I'm sitting up looking at myself like, what is wrong with you? I mean, when I tell you I cried like a baby. Still wondering why was I crying? Dad been dead 20 years. And when I asked Daddy about it, and for those of y'all that don't know, I call God Daddy. So you hear me say Daddy, I'm talking about God. When I asked Daddy about it, he said, you never got a chance to. You never grieved. And then say get a chance. He said, you never grieved. He said, you shifted from taking care of him and being with him in his last moments to taking care of your mom. You never grieved. 20 years later, I'm crying like he just died. Right then, I didn't care what nobody thought. I didn't care how nobody looked at me. My mother was sitting there. She didn't even stop talking. She just kept doing what she was doing. Maybe she didn't even know that it was me that was crying. I don't know. But one of the ministers came up there and took my stuff. And I just bawled. I just bawled. 20 years later. Why did I carry you on that journey right there with me? Because who would have thought 20 years later, I'm just feeling the effect of him leaving. I'm just having my moment about him leaving 20 years later. So you can't judge people when they have their moments of grief, whether it's immediately or 20 years later. And those of you that do have your moment, you can't worry about what people feel. You just cannot. You can't worry about what people feel about you having your moment. That's your moment. That's when it happened. That's the end of the story. Whoever wants to think anything they want to think, you leave them with their thoughts and you live your life. Feel the moments you need to feel and move on. That's what you got to do. You don't have a choice. That's what you have to do. And you got to be okay doing that. You have to be okay doing that. Okay? You have to be okay doing that. That's where you have to mature in your emotions and your mental ability. You got to learn to be okay with people's opinions. They don't have to think like you think. They're not you. 9 times out of 10, they won't think like you think. Okay? They won't. They are not you. Yesterday, we talked about you're not fighting people. And I shared with you about how I had a boss. I was working with some students and we were having a discussion. And this is what he said. He said, "You're fighting home." I was sharing some things with him that was transpiring, and he said, "You're fighting home." When he said that, I knew it, but I didn't focus on it. I didn't focus on it. But when I did begin to focus on it, you're not fighting that child. You're fighting home. Every child is a product of their home. What you see come out of a child is what you see go on in that home. Now, it's true that children act out when they get away from home, because if they have parents like they need to have, parents ain't going to allow them to just do what they want to do. They're going to raise their children. And what happens is they're raised when they leave home. But by the time they mingle with other children who may not have that same foundation, they start liking what those children are doing, and then they come home and want to give you a fit because you're trying to structure them and prepare them for a higher life. Nothing wrong with McDonald's and Burger King, but you're not, unless you own the franchise, you don't want to work there all your life. You're preparing them for government and for legislature and all of that is government, Congress, and you are preparing them for a higher life, entrepreneurship, have a thriving business. And then they get involved with children who don't have anybody maybe that cares about them to that extent. And then all of a sudden, you're fighting the community. You know what you train them, but they have been exposed to the community. And everybody in the community haven't been raised like you're raising your child. So what happens is that they wind up in a war. They hear these students say, oh, shoot, I tell my mama what I'm not going to do, and I don't do it. She don't bother me. She know better. What kind of disrespect you coming from? And then here's your child raised in a home, clean up your room. Don't let me tell you again. And they know what don't let me have to tell you again mean. So what do? They handle business. They get their room clean. But now that they're mingling with community, they come home with, why I gotta clean my room? Every time I turn around, you holler and you almost slap them across the room. Because you ain't gonna have it. But all of a sudden, now you're fighting community. Why did I say that? Because each individual forms opinions based on their roots. Every opinion has a root. And if you don't know the root that that opinion is coming from, instead of being okay and knowing they're talking out of their root, you will let it be planted in you and affect you. And all of a sudden, you're not who you know you originally are. You can't allow people's opinions to take root in you. And even if you did know where they were coming from, you still, excuse me, it's coffee. You still can't allow their opinion to plant in your mental and emotional garden. You can't do it. You have to be okay with how they feel, how they think, and you have to go on with your life knowing what's originally you. You have to. Because if you don't, what's going to happen is you're going to wind up being fragile and discombobulated. You're not going to be able to enjoy life with confidence because you're always wondering, I wonder what they're thinking. I wonder what this one is thinking. I wonder what that one is thinking. You get where I'm coming from? And in doing that, you don't live. When you learn to be okay with how people think and still live your life on your personal convictions, you will live the most liberating life you've ever known. Because it's all right. You got to be okay with people having their opinions. You got to. Why? You have yours. You have your opinion. You have your own opinion about things. And your opinions may not be right, or your opinions may not fit the person that you have an opinion about. So it's the same way with other people. And their opinions don't have to fit you, like your opinions don't have to fit them. Okay? But what you do have to understand is you have to set the boundary so their opinions don't plant. See, once you allow a person's opinion to take root in you, to be planted in your emotional and mental being, all of a sudden now it's living there and it's growing and it's changing your behavior. Because now instead of you focusing on your originality, you're focusing on how they feel about your originality. Don't believe me? All right, case in point. How many times have you dressed? That's what you wanted to wear. You feel comfortable. You're good to go. Blase, blase, blase. Your BFF come over and look at you and, girl, what you got that on for? You're like, I wanted to wear this today. No. I know you ain't going out of here with that on. Yeah. No. Come on, let's go in your closet. You got something else in there better than this. Come on. And all of a sudden, here you are. Now you're fine with what you have on. You feel good, you look cute to you, and you're ready to go. You're dressed, you're ready to go. Here comes somebody with a different opinion about what you have on. Okay? And you go and change. Now you into an outfit they like for where you all are going today. And you're like, no, I didn't want to wear it. Girl, look, this is it. Put this on. Put this on. This is it. This is what you need to wear today where we going. Oh, you going to look so good. And you're like, but I don't, I ain't feeling that. You might not be feeling it, but girl, trust me. You need to put that on. And you're like, well, okay then. All right. And here you change a whole outfit down behind somebody's opinion about what you had on when they first walked in the door. How many times haven't we done it? And then they have the nerve to say, now don't that look better? And you talking about, well, yeah, I guess so. I mean, I was all right with what I had on. Yeah, but no, this is what you need to put on. Now, come on, let's go. You actually changed your outfit that you wanted to wear to fit somebody's opinion of what you should wear. You wasn't okay with them having their opinion and you standing in your originality. That's what you wanted to wear. You felt good about what you had on. You knew where y'all were going. And that's what you wanted to wear. Because none of your clothes are crazy. You got very fine stuff, casual and dress. So whatever you step in, you ready. But you let somebody else's opinion about what you had on change what you had on. I mean, you let them walk you all the way to the closet. Okay? You let them walk you all the way to the closet. They pick out what they think you ought to wear. Until you put that on and you put it on. You see where I'm coming from? You see how we do when we're not okay with how people feel? Because see, had you been okay, you'd have been like, hey, hold it. Now, I dressed for me. I didn't dress for you. I dressed for me. I like what I have on. And we get ready to go. Girl, we ain't go. Yes, we are. If you don't like it, I'm okay with that. I like it. And I have to feel comfortable to be my confident self when I greet and meet these people. Now, if you want us to drive 2 cars, I'm fine with it. I'll get right in my car and go. Well, I won't say it like that. Well, then let's go. See, when you okay with how people feel, you have no problem putting them in their place. You can have your opinion, but this is who I am. And I'm not changing because you got a problem with me. Now, if I have a problem with me, that's when we change it. But if you have a problem with me, you can keep that. I'm going on. And that's where you have to get it together. Yeah, but they were looking out for me. They could see what I couldn't see. Stop it. You saw everything when you was in that mirror. Because when you got dressed, you went to your that long mirror where you can see your whole self. Excuse me, you went there and you looked at that and you like, yeah, this gonna be good. You were fine until you were not okay with how somebody else thought about how you looked. You got to strengthen that area, or you'll be changing your life for everybody and will never live for you. Join me tomorrow. We're going to talk about this some more. We wrap up on Thursday. We're going to talk about this some more because I really want you okay, because I have become okay. I have. And you remember that person I told you about, or that situation rather, I told you about, where this person, because of how I'm developing constantly, maturing, growing, whatever word you want to put there, they're having a time with me now. I had a conversation with them. They didn't want to talk because they didn't want to hear what I had to say. And I said, I can't leave here. I said, you don't want to talk, but I got to say this. I'm not who I was. I'm not who you used to me being. And I'm not putting up with what I used to put up with. This is me. This is how I do. And you need to be okay with that. And if you're not, then we're going to have to just do telephone communication, stay out of each other's face. Text. I don't care about texting. I really don't. But for some folk, you may have to, till you get where you can actually talk and be in each other's presence. Okay? So join me tomorrow as we wrap this part up of you being okay with how folk feel and not changing your life to fit every opinion that comes your way. But knowing that it's all right to have your life. And do you remember the saying, let the chips fall where they may? You have your life and let others have their opinions and keep it moving. I'll see you tomorrow.